The latest Fortnite season is coming to an end, so I thought I would take a moment and go over some of the things that I liked and didn't like about it. I'll discuss the new enemies, the new weapons, some of the changes that took place on the map itself, and give a quick rundown of the Battle Pass as well as some of the brand new skins that were added to the game. My name's Brad, and this is my review of Fortnite Chapter 2 Season 3. At the end of the last season, we got the Device, an in-game story event which saw the entire Fortnite map flooded by Midas. As a result, several places and landmarks on the map were completely different than how they were before. There were also new locations added to the map as well, which meant that overall you were going to have to explore this map all over again just to get used to it. With the map now mostly covered in water, the motorboats became a lot more handy. There were plenty of them stationed everywhere, and if you needed to make a quick escape from either the storm or any potential enemies, it was pretty easy to find one. Speaking of enemies, the huge amount of water now covering the map welcomed a brand new type of enemy to the game, the loot sharks. These big toothy fish were found all over the place, and if you weren't careful, they could easily take you out. If you got too close to them in the water, of course, they would bite you. But if you tried to get away from them on land, they would launch themselves into the air after you for an aerial attack. It took me completely by surprise the first time I saw one do this, and I imagine most players felt the same. It can be pretty intimidating to see a giant fish with many teeth flying at you from the air. The sharks serve as a sort of mini-boss, and if you have the patience to take one out, you can get some pretty good rewards for it, depending on what color the shark is glowing. And if you're in need of fast travel but don't see a motorboat anywhere, you can use a fishing rod to hook one of these sharks to ride them and take full control of them for as long as you need to. Personally, I like the addition of the sharks. It makes things more interesting than just leaving all of the waterways open and empty. Another new enemy, or group of enemies, that was added to the game this season are the Marauders. These guys operate somewhat how your standard henchmen would, only with a few differences. The first one being that these guys will spawn throughout the game and will drop onto any part of the map. These guys can appear anywhere and everywhere. The second and most important difference is once these guys land, they roam. They'll search high and low for a player to fight and will turn their attention to the closest enemy to them. I actually like the Marauders. Much like the sharks in the water, they make things more interesting on land. You might take a little damage, but you should survive. The two weapons that stuck out the most to me this season, besides the character-specific ones, were the pump shotgun and the flare gun. The pump gun lets you hold down the trigger and then release it for a more powerful singular shot. But that one shot packs a punch, and at close distance it can really make a difference. The flare gun can actually burn down buildings and trees. If you see somebody run into a building and you think they might be hiding there, you can use the flare gun to burn it down and cause some damage and force them back out into the open. Towards the end of the season, they gave us a new way to travel around the map. The cars that were originally just placed around the map for scenery were now drivable. This was added after watching the water levels of the game, which were previously flooded, recede after a few weeks. Slowly but surely, the water levels returned back to their previous state. In addition to being a way to travel across the map faster, it gives you a fun, wackier way to take out opponents. While they do inflict a lot of damage, you can also take a lot of damage from inside the cars as well. All of the cars and trucks run on gasoline too, so if you're running low on fuel, you need to either pick up a gas can or drive to the nearest gas station and refuel. The Battle Pass gave us some interesting skins this time too. The first being Ocean, who looks like a sort of undersea explorer. Her design is pretty cool, and I think I like some of her alternate colors a little bit better than the standard one. Next up we have Scuba Jonesy, which is quite literally what it sounds like, Jonesy in a scuba suit. To be quite honest, this one doesn't really do a whole lot for me. I mean, it doesn't look bad or anything, it just isn't really inspiring. Next up we have Jules, and honestly this one is probably one of my favorites of the season. Not a big fan of the green overalls, but I think this is a really good character. I also like Ohm, which is a mechanical owl that I think she built herself. It serves as her back bling, detaches itself when you exit the party bus, and serves as the glider as she descends towards the map. And if you come across another player with Ohm on their back, you can actually pet him. It's a nice little touch. Now we move on to Kit, the son of the previous season's Meowscles. Unlike his buff dad, this kitten is still small, so he needs a robot suit to make up for the size difference. I really like this character. He's just a lot of fun and even has his own unique emote, which allows him to morph his robot suit into sort of like a motorized unicycle and just cruise around the map while headbanging to metal music. It's pretty awesome. Kit's alt skins are the same as his dad's, one good, one bad, and the robot suit gets some influence there too. Very cute, but very hardcore. Coming up next, we have Siona, or Siona, I guess you could say possibly, who looks like a space traveler. Her casual base look is my favorite, but I don't really like the baggy astronaut suits. They just don't work for me. I get that they're probably very appropriate for her character, but it's an astronaut suit, and that just kinda is what it is. Again, not terrible, but I was hoping for something a little more imaginative. Next up is the Eternal Knight, and while I would say that it has a cool look to it, it just isn't exciting to me either. Don't get me wrong, I like the design, it's just I don't really get a sense of story with this character. It's a knight, it's cool, it's got cool weapons and a glider that is basically made out of sword blades. But I feel like it's missing something, and I'm not really even sure what that would be. I don't know. It looks cool, and I guess that works for some people, and it works for me to a point, but it's just missing something. The alts for the Eternal Knight are good for what they are. Again, not really complaining here. I just wish there was something more to this skin. And finally we have Fade, who goes through a lot of changes as you progress through the battle pass. At first he seems just like a regular dude, but as you unlock his alts, you'll see that's really not the case. His first alt changes his overall outfit slightly, while his hands start emanating some kind of dark aura, and now he's wearing a half mask, covering the bottom part of his face. These changes appear minor at first glance, but once you see his final alt, you'll see that there's a complete transformation going on. Fade's final form is a completely hooded character wearing now a dark robe, and his entire body is now pulsating this dark aura. He's also upgraded his mask to now cover his entire face, giving him the appearance of what looks like a Japanese-influenced demon. Considering his glider is literally just energy crystal butterflies, and he has an energy blossom on his back, I would assume that this guy is supposed to be some sort of Grim Reaper, which is really cool. While I'm no expert in Japanese symbolism, I do believe that there's some sort of connection to death and butterflies in that country. I like all three versions of this character, with the final one I think being my favorite, and I would be very interested in his backstory if we ever get one. Now to talk about this season's guest character, Aquaman. I find myself torn between liking and not liking this skin, and let me explain what I mean by that. First off, I like that this character is in the game, but he just stands out too much. Since this version of Aquaman is based on the live-action movie actor, he looks out of place in Fortnite, where the characters still retain a bit of a fictional look to them. This is strictly my opinion, but he just looks out of place with the other skins. He looks too real. Now, given what they're doing with the next season, it seems like this may be intentional, or it just may be a coincidence. The idea of multiple universes converging at one point to stop a bigger threat seems to be a thing. The design itself is perfectly fine, there's nothing wrong with it. Even the alt skin that I jokingly refer to as Sexy Aquaman is perfectly fine. I just think that he just looks a little bit too realistic, that's all. Honestly, I kind of look at this as me being a little bit nitpicky here, but honestly, perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with this character at all. Later on in the season, we had the appearance of Black Manta, Aquaman's arch-enemy from the comics, movies, and TV shows. I believe this version was taken from the live-action films as well, but the suit itself is so over-the-top that it looks really good in Fortnite. This design is really well done, and I'm surprised I haven't actually seen many people use it in-game besides myself. I don't really have much more to add to that. It's a great-looking skin, and that's all I can say. There was one other notable guest character that dropped in for the 4th of July, the beloved Captain America. This skin is apparently based on the comic book version of Captain America, and honestly, it fits in really well with the rest of the cast of Fortnite. The coolest thing about this character, though, is that his traditional shield serves as both a backbling and a harvesting tool. When you're in harvesting mode, the shield will not appear on his back, but instead in his hand. And of course, it returns to his back the minute you swap over to a recovery item or some weapon. This is one of my favorite skins overall that I have in the game, and probably my top favorite of this season. It's just too good. It's classic Cap, he looks like he belongs in this universe, and his back bling serving as a harvesting tool just works perfectly. A solid 10 out of 10 character. And that was Chapter 2, Season 3. I know I didn't cover everything about this season, but I wanted to get the ones that I thought stood out the most. If there's something I missed that you want my opinion on, let me know in the comments. I thought overall this was a great season, and I look forward to see what Season 4 will bring us. But that'll do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you'll stick around for more Fortnite fun in the future. Be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Later.